The Exemplary Service Award recognizes the volunteers who are a solid foundation for our chapters. They are models for their peers and represent the best of what SigEp offers its members. It's not just about giving of their time, although they certainly give plenty of that. They're the ones who roll up their sleeves when there's work to be done. They can always be counted on for sound advice. When a speaker or facilitator is needed, they're there. In short, they pour their hearts and souls into Sigma Phi Epsilon. These volunteers have built lasting relationships with brothers and friends that can only be fully comprehended through the eyes of the people they have touched. So to properly recognize tonight's recipient, I would ask that Brother Sam Reese of the California Gamma chapter at the University of California, Santa Barbara, please come to the stage to introduce tonight's Exemplary Service Award recipient.
Brother Scott Carr has been a driving force behind California Gamma's success for over 20 years. After graduating from the University of California, Santa Barbara in 1986, Scott immediately joined the ABC and did whatever he could to support the chapter. His unique combination of humility and vision made him an example for brothers and volunteers in everything he touched, from attending chapter meetings to spearheading major ventures like the renovation of the chapter house in 2000. Scott had a grasp for what California Gamma could be and was relentless in his pursuit, consistently pushing the chapter to be better than they were the year before. In 2005, he plunged wholeheartedly into the role of president of ABC, where he has faithfully served ever since. He frequently makes the 2-hour drive from his home in Los Angeles to attend chapter meetings or check in and say hi. Scott is passionate about building meaningful relationships with the brothers. He makes sure all the undergraduates know they're like family to him. They all have his phone number and know that we can call him anytime. Scott has impacted the chapter in so many ways, but most significantly, as president, he worked with the chapter leaders who spearheaded a successful transition to the Balanced Man program. It was a change many people were initially skeptical of. California Gamma already had a consistent track record of success. But as he came to understand the true value of the Balanced Man program, he became a strong advocate. Scott was able to communicate effectively with volunteers and chapter members and solidify the chapter's successful transition. The leadership extended well beyond Santa Barbara. Once the powerhouse California Gamma voted to implement the Balanced Man program, other pledge model chapters took note and followed our lead. Scott values the experience that young brothers gain from SigEp's leadership events and has worked diligently with his board to provide chapter members opportunities to attend. Under Scott's leadership, the chapter has sent a total of 58 members to Carlson in the last 3 years, even more to Conclaves. He's also volunteered his own time to Carlson's and Life After College programs, where he is a frequent facilitator. He's attended 14 conclaves, and for the last 3, has served as a member of the Buchanan Cup Review Committee. Scott's brotherly love is constant, as is seen in his close friendships with brothers decades older and decades younger. He's a fixture at weddings and celebrations. He's a shining example of what has been a lifetime of selfless commitment to Sigma Phi Epsilon. As chapter president, I worked with Scott during our transition to the Balanced Man program because I was on the executive board last year. He was influential in our decision because of the passion he displayed when talking about the potential the program had for our chapter. Words can't describe the gratitude we have for Scott's dedication, passion, and mentorship. All he and the ABC asks from us is to live right, be honest, have fun, and of course, to stay off the roof. Without further ado, let me introduce you all to Scott Carr. Would you please come up and accept your award?
Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate it. Brothers, family, friends, and guests, I'm so very honored and extremely humbled by this award. I'm even more humbled to be the initial recipient of this award, primarily for 3 reasons. First, when I saw the list of honorees, I recognized the names of volunteers who I admire so greatly. People like Jay Hurt, Joe Langella, Philip McKnight, and Sean Dalglish. I'm in awe of what these amazing brothers do for our fraternity every day. Quite frankly, while I don't consider myself worthy of being in their company, I'll vow upon my honor to work hard every day to live up to the example that they so diligently set. Secondly, this award was the brainchild of former Grand Chapter President Phil Cox. Brother Cox made it a hallmark of his presidency to promote volunteerism within SigEp and to honor those who go above and beyond in giving of their time and talents. I had the privilege of meeting Brother Cox, and in my few interactions with him, I learned so much about the importance of giving back to my brothers and the psychic rewards that come along with doing so. Brother Cox passed away on January 9th, shortly before I was notified of my receipt of this award. And I can think of no greater tribute to Brother Cox than to accept this recognition with the humility that he always exhibited. Finally, I'm so honored to share this podium with SigEp National Director Dave Calderon. Dave has been an amazing friend, colleague, brother, and mentor for so many years. He's touched my life and the lives of others in such a positive way that when you're around him, you feel the need to volunteer. You want to emulate him because you can see what a difference one person can make in the lives of so many. As author Richard Christie wrote, the opportunity for brotherhood presents itself every time you meet a human being. It is that creed which guides Dave in his daily life. Nobody embodies our principle of brotherly love more than Dave Calderon. Thank you, Dave, for all that you do for all of us every day. And really, that's what giving back to the brotherhood through volunteerism is about, making a difference in young people's lives while at the same time learning about yourself. I'm often asked why I volunteer. Why do I make the sacrifice of time away from my family, my work, my friends, for what seems to be a thankless and oftentimes frustrating endeavor? For me, the answer is a simple one. I could never give enough to equal that which I've received through my 35-year membership in the Brotherhood of Sigma Phi Epsilon. As a 17-year-old undergraduate, I was immature, socially awkward, lacking in leadership skills. A fraternity that had rechartered only 2 years earlier took a chance on me and gave me the opportunity to develop balance as a young man, to establish the foundation for a lifetime of living our cardinal principles, and to build skills which would prove pivotal in shaping who I am today. And I can credit a single volunteer for seeing in me what nobody else saw. Order of the Golden Heart recipient John Hoffman was our AVC president, and essentially the only volunteer involved in the fledgling chapter. John and I had nothing in common. He was a staunch conservative, and I was a liberal Democrat. He loved to build and renovate properties, and I could barely lift a hammer. He was into classic cars, and I was happy with my old beat-up Toyota. Yet despite our differences, we had one bond that was unbreakable, one bond that took precedence over all else, our brotherhood in Sigma Phi Epsilon. As an undergraduate, John encouraged me to pursue a career in the law. He hired me to do some work for him in his law office and ultimately wrote my letter of recommendation for law school. He helped guide me through my early legal career, repeatedly challenging me to do better. He took me under his wing and became a mentor to me. And yes, it was John who immediately upon my graduation from UC Santa Barbara convinced me to become an active volunteer for our local chapter. Even though I was young, inexperienced, and geographically undesirable as I lived 3 hours outside of Santa Barbara, how could I say no? I so deeply wanted to have the opportunity to affect one life, just one in the way that John so positively affected mine. Over the next 19 years, I assisted John on the AVC at UC Santa Barbara with the goal of effecting positive change on that one person's life. When John was diagnosed with brain cancer and asked me to take over as president of the AVC approximately 11 years ago, I knew it would be a hardship on me, but even more so on my family and on my law partners. Yet deep down in my core, I was driven to change that one person's life. So without hesitation, I agreed to accept the responsibility that John had so graciously entrusted me with. With the help of other dedicated volunteers such as Aaron Levine and Travis Hurd, both of whom are here today, we've helped guide our chapter to operational excellence in most all areas. We've doubled our manpower, substantially increased our GPA, transitioned to a balanced man chapter, and upgraded the chapter facility, all culminating in the receipt of 2 Buchanan Cups in the past 10 years. As you heard, I've also served on several committees for the National Fraternity, facilitated at fraternity events, attended numerous Carlson leadership academies, and attended 14 conclaves. Yet I was still unsure whether I had truly affected anyone's life the way that John had affected mine. And it dawned on me that, of course, I had positively affected that one life in a way that I never could have imagined. Because you see, the life that was so richly rewarded through my volunteerism with Sigma Phi Epsilon was my own. Through my interactions with thousands of brothers and volunteers over that 30-year time span, I made lifelong friends and cemented relationships that I otherwise would not have had the opportunity to make. People like Dave Calderon, Renato Villacorte, Aaron Levine, Travis Hurd, Nate Balatin. The list is endless of those brothers who to this day I call my closest friends. And what do they all have in common? They've all dedicated themselves as volunteers to Sigma Phi Epsilon. I've had the honor of spending time with other outstanding volunteers, such as former Grand Chapter Presidents Bill Tragos, Wally Dowd, Phil Cox, and Gary Keefe, and learning from them the true meaning of selfless giving. I've met undergraduate brothers from countless chapters who've gone on to become doctors, lawyers, public servants, people from all walks of life who have taught me life lessons that are too numerous to mention, but which I'm reminded of every day. Sometimes I hear from these individuals years later about their lives, careers, families, but oftentimes I simply receive a thank you, which means more to me than any award I could ever be presented with. I've come to know the spouses of many of our volunteers, people like Nancy Hoffman, Lily Tragos, Dina Calderon, Estrelita Villacorte, who have taught me about the true meaning of sacrifice. And I've come to appreciate so much the sacrifice of my own wife, Celine, for always supporting and encouraging my involvement with SigEp because she knew how important that work was to me, selflessly putting my happiness and satisfaction above her own. I've had the pleasure of working with members of headquarters staff who are eager to assist volunteers in improving the quality of the volunteer experience and in easing some of the burdens that come along with selfless giving. I'm so proud that many on our staff have also become dear friends throughout the years. I so greatly enjoyed my time as an undergraduate member of Sigma Phi Epsilon, yet that experience pales in comparison to the enjoyment and satisfaction that I have received as a volunteer. The selfless giving of which I speak is a virtue, one of those principles that is ingrained in us as an undergraduate. Yet the secret behind that selflessness is that in our quest to help others, we truly benefit ourselves. So to all of the alumni volunteers in this room, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you for all that you've done for me and all that you have done for our fraternity. But most importantly, I want you to reflect on the positive impact that being a volunteer has had on your own life. And I want to encourage all of you to continue affecting just that one life. And to all of you undergraduates who are here this evening, remember this: brotherhood in Sigma Phi Epsilon is a lifetime experience. All too often, we lose sight of that fact after our 4 years in college have passed and we move on with our lives. But all of you are here tonight for a reason. You've chosen to attend this Carlson Leadership Academy because you're a leader or a future leader of our fraternity. You've dedicated yourself to changing Sigma Phi Epsilon for the better. So to you undergraduates, I'll issue to each of you a challenge, and to each of you I will make a promise. I challenge each and every one of you to ask yourself, what can I do as an alumnus to positively impact at least one life through service as a volunteer to Sigma Phi Epsilon, and then to follow through on that endeavor, whether as a member of your AVC or as a mentor to an undergraduate. If you do so, I promise that the life that will be impacted in the most positive and rewarding way will be your own. From the time that our fraternity was created, our founders vowed that this fraternity will be different. As volunteers and future volunteers, only you can make our founders' vision a reality. Once again, I want to thank you so much for this award, which I share with every other volunteer here in this room. Thank you so much.